Good afternoon, everybody. This is Levi. I'm back again with another project. As you can see, I shaved. Funny story about that last project, the swamp cooler at the shop. About 4 or 5 days after I finished that swamp cooler, it started snowing again. So if you don't like the weather in New Mexico, wait 5 minutes, it'll change. All right, so today we're going to be looking at the swamp cooler at the house. And as you can see, this is a square swamp cooler. And it's all covered up. So let's go ahead and get this uncovered, see what we've got, see what kind of shape it is in from last year. I'd like to replace it this year, but we're gonna see if we can get it going before I get a chance to replace it. So follow along and we'll look at the house swamp cooler and compare it a little bit to the shop commercial swamp cooler that we worked on a couple weeks ago. This video is not sponsored. I pay for everything. It's my house. Follow along and we'll get going.
Shadows creeping round the block at night. Deep bass banging feels just right. Strong vibes rolling, drum line heavy. This groove's alive, keep your tempo steady. Feel the heat, let it rise in your chest. Bounce to the rhythm, no need for rest. Groove so fierce, gonna light the streets. We own the night, feel the heat.
Okay guys, we got those taken apart. Let's take a look at it. So in my last video, I mentioned that the commercial swamp cooler, that model was nice because it had a plastic pan. As you can see, this one does not have a plastic pan, it's got a metal pan. And it is full of hard water deposits. From last year. So let's see the condition of the pads. Get out of the sun here. You can see that the pads are also full of hard water deposits. These are supposed to be soft. They're still a little bit soft. They're getting pretty calcified. In the past, I've had to take a chisel and a hammer and actually chisel these out piece by piece before I could get a new pad in there. Look at this other side real quick. All right. I don't know if you can see in there, but hard water deposits. The hard water deposits are caked on the outside of the metal frame itself. So I fought with these in the past. What I'm gonna do this time, I think, is we have a kid's pool. I think I'm gonna fill that up with water and some CLR or vinegar. And I'm gonna go ahead and soak those and see if it makes it easier to get those out. And then obviously I'm gonna have to get the shop vac and we're gonna shop vac all of this out. Look how thick this is, guys. Thick, thick, thick. Absolutely ridiculous. Just flies away. Oh, look at that. The wind blew a little bit and it's just flying. So we have to get all this cleaned out, vacuumed out before we start this up. Otherwise, this is all just gonna blow into the house. All right, stay tuned.
Shadows creeping round the block at night. Deep bass banging feels just right. Strong vibes rolling, drum line heavy. This groove's alive, keep your tempo steady. Feel the heat, let it rise in your chest. Bounce to the rhythm, no need for rest. Groove so fierce, gonna light the streets. We own the night, feel the heat.
All right, guys, we got it vacuumed out pretty good. There's still some chunks there. I might grab a scraper, scrape some more of that out. We got some of this dust blown out. But if you look right here, this belt is gonna need to be replaced this year. I believe I have one in the garage somewhere, but I have to go down and get the oil. We're gonna oil the bearings, just like we did on the last one. If I have a new belt, I'm gonna put that on. If not, I will have to go down to the hardware store and get one of those. Got to get my Teflon tape, so we can put the drain, the overflow drain valve in. All right, everybody, we're back. I found some of the supplies we're gonna need. I didn't find my Zoom spout oiler, but I've got some gun oil. Your wife will really appreciate it if you find some hops number 9. The fragrance in the house, if you used hops number 9, beautiful. Didn't have any of that. I do have some CLP. That's gonna be just fine for these bearings. I did find a belt. I'm not sure if it's the right size, but we're gonna find out in a second. And then, this is a handy little tool, especially if you have hard water deposits. It is a spider snake, and it's a little declogger for the water spiders. So the water is going to come up from the pump, which is laying up here right now, but it should be in the water. It's going to come up through the hose and it's going to be dispersed through the spider. That's what this black thing is called. So the spider is going to distribute your water, drip it down over the pads, wet your media, the air is going to blow through it, and that's what creates cold air. So let's go ahead and oil the bearings, get those soaking while we try to change this belt out. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this while I'm videoing. Let me check. Spin. All the power is off, guys. We don't have any power coming up here. We don't want to lose some fingers or a hand. I also found a scraper. We're going to scrape some more of the hard water deposits out of the bottom. My basket, I think I replaced that last year, so it's fine. Sometimes those can get really crudted up. Let me change hands. Sorry for the shakiness. Just going to lift that valve. Give it a spin. You see all the dust coming off of this fan, guys? We are not going to pull the panel, the winter panel off of this and allow the air to go into the house until after we've run this for a little while with the sides off and let all this dust escape. I did blow it out with the shop vac, but you can see it's still got a lot of dust on it. And it gets that way once all the water evaporates and it's been running all summer. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna pop this out of this package. We're gonna see if it's approximately the same length. It should be. So, I don't really want to mess with all this corroded bolt and hardware that we've got up here to take this belt off. So I'm gonna try to see if I can just rotate it off of this pulley, off of the big pulley, and see if we can get this one off and get the new one on without having to mess with the corroded. Oh, there we go. Okay, old one's off. I believe I bought 2 of the same one last year, the year before. I did have to replace the motor on this a couple years ago. Yeah, so it's pretty stretched out. So let's put the new one back. See if we can just get it to rotate. We're just going to rotate this big pulley, and bam, guys, there you go. Belt's replaced. If it's squeaking on us or doing anything weird, then I'm going to have to come up here and I'm going to have to loosen these bolts, which are fairly rusted. I'll put some penetrating oil on them first. Probably do that anyway. Take a picture of this and save it in your favorites on your phone, or you aren't going to find it again. What I'm going to also do, since I'm here, is I'm going to write this information, pardon me, I'm going to write this information right inside my swamp cooler so that I know if I need another one, which one to get. 59-inch belt. Oh, let me write it on the outside. Nobody comes up here and looks at this anyway. All right, so this is just for me. 59-inch belt. And it's gonna be part number 4L590. 4L590A57. Okay, so now we're gonna do just like before at the in my last video at the other shop. We're gonna take a wrap or two of Teflon tape and get it on there straight for you guys. It'll go better for you because you're not doing it on video. Just pull that, make sure there's nothing clogging the overflow. Okay. Take our Rector Seal number 5 thread sealant, soft set sealant. As you can see, it never really gets hard, so that'll come out nice and easy in the fall. Right, see, just gonna put a little dab will do ya. Doesn't need to be a lot, it'll smear out. Towards the bottom, it'll smoosh up against the collar there. All right, there we go. All right, just gonna take this and thread it into the spout. And take our pliers and just give it a couple turns. It doesn't have to be tight. I like to feel it get just a little bit snug. Perfect. I can show you this real quick. Just show you how this works. 24-inch snake. Just like it implies, you're going to snake out the, instead of a drain, you're going to snake out the water channels to make sure you've got maximum water flow, which is important because these do get clogged up. So we're just going to take this. You're just going to take the end. Ooh, I can't even, I'm not even in the right spot. There we go. Let me go wide. There we go. Maybe that'll help. Just going to snake that in. Oh yeah, look at that. There's buildup in there. So anyway, you're going to work at this. You're going to thread this all the way up and try to get it towards the center. Let's go ahead and pull our pump off of here and get it put back in the bucket. All right, I think I replaced that last year. All right, so the water is going to flow up through the tube, go into the snake, and it's going to be coming out here at the ends. So let me see. Oh, there we go. It went around the curve. Nice. All right, so that one should be clear. Now, the other thing you might want to do is if you look inside this hose and it's just caked with hard water deposits, you're going to want to pop that off of there, and you're going to want to get that cleaned out. Soak it in some vinegar water, CLR, maybe spray it out with your high pressure hose or even your air compressor. I would blow this entire thing out with my air compressor, but I don't have it at the house at the moment. If I had my air compressor here, I would go ahead and bring a hose up here and blow everything out. Problem is this doesn't really have, the fan housing doesn't have an outlet for all the dust that accumulates in the bottom. It just kind of sits there. It does have channels to let the water out, so if water were to get in there for some reason, there's enough weep holes to let the water out, but there is an accumulation of hard water dust deposits in the bottom, and I don't have a hose attachment for my shop vac small enough to get in there and get those out. So I would definitely if I had an air compressor handy, I would be blowing that out, and I don't see any panel or any other way of getting to that. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'll show you one more. I'm going to make sure all these channels are clear. I did have to replace this spider last year, the year before, I think it was the year before, the hard water deposits were so bad that I couldn't feed this snake in there and I had to buy the whole kit. All right guys, I'm pretty much finishing up here with this part of the project. I'm gonna have my wife turn the fan on here in a second.
Feel the heat, let it rise in your chest. Bounce to the rhythm, no need for rest. Groove so fierce, gonna light the streets. We own the night, feel the heat. Moonlight sharp, slicing through the fog. Pulse of the beat like a heartbeat jog. Step into the rhythm like a king, it's clear.
I don't have the water line connected down at the bottom yet, so I'm just gonna fill up the basin with the water hose. Just be faster. Well, I may go ahead and take that drain plug back out and let this first batch drain. I'll get it filled up and then I'm going to drain the first can of water out. Pretty dirty. Yep. All right. I'm going to finish filling this up. I'm going to pull that drain plug, let it drain, and then we'll fill it up again. All right, I'll be back. Okay, so I rinsed that out a couple times. It's much better now. I just wanted to show you in case you didn't know. So there's your drain valve. There's the edge of your tank. You're going to want to make sure that your drain valve is, you're going to put a straight edge. I just used a broom for now. But you're going to take a straight edge and you're going to run it across, and you're going to make sure that your drain valve is lower than the tops of your water basin for sure. But you actually even want it lower than that. You don't need this full all the way to the top. Okay? So what you have to remember is that you have to have enough water in here that it's going to coat the pads in water, but enough room left at the top that when the pump turns off, the water is going to drain back out of your media, your cooling media. So the cooling media is going to fill up with water, and when the pump shuts off, like at night when it cools off, the water level needs to have enough room to rise without overflowing either the sides or the center. So you need at least enough water level in the tank to cover your pump right here. So you want to be able to cover the top of the pump, at least come over the top of the pump so that it can pump the water. But you want not so high that when the water drains out of the media that it's going to overflow the sides or overflow the center. Okay, while I was up on the roof, my lovely wife was getting started on pulling the old media out of the sides. We dumped it in a swimming pool, the kids' swimming pool, with a couple of gallons of vinegar in there. We've been letting it soak. And so now we're just going to take out this old media. This is much easier than the way I've been doing it. I've literally had to take a hammer and chisel these out. I was going to use an air chisel this year, but we decided to soak these in vinegar, see if that was a better way to do it. So you just have to take out these metal grates. These ones are pretty worn out. You're going to bend it up in the middle, pull straight up in the middle, and it'll come out. And let's see how easy these came out. The last couple of years I've had to chisel these out with a hammer and a chisel. They're still pretty stuck on there.
Yeah, not too bad.
And there you go. You can see all the dirt and hard water deposits in that media.
That's it.
And so now we'll buy a roll of new media and cut them up and get them back in there. Okay guys, this is a big problem with what's going on with the sides now, and I don't know if I can just buy the new sides. I haven't looked yet, but one of the reasons I feel like this swamp cooler needs to be replaced is when this is brand new and there's just paint on here, those pads just peel right out. There's not an issue. but you can see all the calcium buildup, hard water buildup on the louvers. This directs the water comes in from the top. It's fed in by the spiders. It goes in through the weep holes, soaks into the media, and runs down to the bottom and out to the basin. These louvers make sure that the water doesn't spill out of the swamp cooler, but gets redirected back in to the media. Well, as you can see, I'm gonna let these soak for a while longer, and I'm gonna take a scraper and I'm gonna try to scrape some of this out. This is just absolutely horrible to work with, guys. Just years and years of hard water deposits built up on these louvers. And you can see why I had to chisel it out in years past, because it just grabs the fibers of the media. So we're gonna let this soak for a while longer, see if we can soften it up any, and then we're gonna try to scrape some of it off before putting new media in. All right, we're back from the parts store. We found a couple of interesting things. And then to descale the sides of the swamp cooler, I got this 3-inch coarse cup wire brush, and we're gonna use the DeWalt drill here, and we're gonna go ahead and see if we can descale some of that before we put the new pads in. So let's go do that. My son is demonstrating one level of protection that you might want to consider. Charlie, say hi.
Hi.
You may not need that much protection, but then again, if you feel any wire bristles coming off of your drill, you might want to get your PPE on. Another thing I would recommend is using a corded drill for this, not your cordless drill. Cordless drills are very expensive. You don't want to be wearing that out. This is a little heavier duty. It can handle this abuse a little better than the cordless drills might. And if you ruin that one, it's going to be a lot less to replace than your lithium-ion cordless drill. Getting rid of this old material from last year that's getting stuck on here, and that's going to help improve water flow. You can see the old material, the media material, the blue stuff, they got stuck on there from last year. I am successful in removing that. However, the hard water deposits are very, very stubborn. They're on there very, very good. I'm not really having any luck removing the hard water deposits with that. As with many things in life, I find that the appropriate amount of heat and friction can solve many problems. So that didn't go as well as I thought. We got a lot of the old material out of there from last year, but the hard water deposits remain. They're basically granite now, petrified. All right, they didn't have the blue material we've been using for the last couple of years. They had the Aspen cooling pads. This one is a 28 by 32. We're gonna go ahead and install this one real quick. I'm not gonna show the installation of all three. If you've seen one, you know how to do the rest. take the retaining bar. The tab is broke off the top. There should be a tab like there is here on the bottom. It's going to slip in to a tab on the top, and we're just gonna press this down and kind of slide it in since the retaining tab is gone on the bottom. All right, so let's take a look at that. All right, so as you can see, there's holes drilled in the side to put the retaining pins in. Bend it, put the retaining pins in here. You have the retaining slot and the retaining tab on the top and on the bottom. If the bottom one was still there, sometimes you have to take pliers and you have to bend this up enough to get this in here. Then you can bend this back down into place again. You're gonna wanna make sure that your drain holes for the bottom are clear so the water exits. And very importantly, you're gonna wanna make sure that the drain holes on the top are clear. Here in this part of the country, these will clog up with hard water deposits. And then I just take an old flathead screwdriver that I don't care about. And I may have to take a little hammer and just hammer those open so that the water drains. The water's gonna come out of the spider, The water's gonna come out of the spider, spray into this reservoir. It's gonna go into the holes, flow down over the media, soak the media, come down to the bottom and drain back into the basin. Okay, I'm gonna get the other 3 done and we'll get these reinstalled. Everything's turned on. We've got the Aspen media panels in the panels. This is how it's supposed to work. If you look up here, water flows into the top of the reservoir, flows down through the media. As you can see, the air flows through that and cools. Here again is the channel. Water fills up the top channel, flows through those holes, down through the media. The air blows across it with the fan, and that's what creates cool air. Now this doesn't work in humid environments. This only works in very dry, arid environments. That's why we use it a lot here in the Southwest. Relative humidity is very low. All right, let's put this last panel on. Stick the bottom of the panel in here. Push it into place. On this unit, it doesn't matter which panel goes where. They're all the same, okay? But you see how the louvers, they redirect the water that's falling back into the media. There we go. Now we're looking at the heater, the HVAC system. This is the heater. I've put the size of the 1-inch filters that I was using previously. I'm now using 20 by 25 by 5-inch filters. We'll show you that again in the fall. But my air conditioner, my swamp cooler, evaporative cooler, uses the same ductwork in the house as the heater system. So before we pull the panel on the swamp cooler to let the air flow down into the house, we have to close off and block the air from flowing down into our furnace. And to do that, there's butterfly valves. There's a butterfly valve here and a butterfly valve here. There's 2 panels that sit in here and they sit open when the heater is working. I'm going to close them, and this one's gonna fold the other way, and that's gonna block access to the heater so I don't get cool, moist air blowing down into my HVAC system. It's gonna get blocked and it's gonna go into the rest of the house. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna flip that panel, flip that panel, the valve's closed, and we're ready to go. As I showed you at the hardware store, You have two types of controls for a swamp cooler, evaporative cooler. You have the manual control, which just has a dial. You turn it to where you want it. Low cool, high cool, fan only, pump only. I replaced that with this thermostat, so we can set the thermostat at the temperature we want. It automatically turns on and off. Now the nice thing about this one is it also can sense how hot it is, and it will switch the motor between low speed and high speed. So if the temperature inside is close to the temperature set on the control dial, it'll remain in low speed. But if the temperature difference from what is set and what's in the house is too great, it automatically switches to high speed until it cools off, and then it kicks the motor down to low speed, which is very convenient. And the very last thing we're going to do is we're going to allow access for the cool air to go down into the system, in the house, and through the ductwork. We're just going to pull this panel straight out. And we're going to store that in the garage in a place that it won't get damaged, and we'll be able to find it again next year. So we'll put that next to the cover. If you made it all the way through the video, I appreciate it. Please hit like and subscribe, and we'll have more out soon. I'm working on getting better audio for the video, and I'm working on my editing, all of which I'm doing on the iPhone right now. So stick with me, the videos will improve. I hope you learned something today, and if not, I hope you were at least entertained. Please use all the appropriate safety precautions for whatever project you're working on, and I wish you success. All right, this is Levi. We'll catch you on the next video.